welcome back. So let's cut right to the chase. Are these Pylontech batteries good for off-grid living? Absolutely. So this is 17 months I've had with these bad boys now, and they have not let me or my family down whatsoever. So we rely on these, right? If these were no good and caused me a whole bunch of trouble, I'll throw them out, right? I've paid for all these. All 11 of them now, 11, yep. And I've expanded this. It started with 5, went to 6, went to 8, went to 10, and then went to 11. Got an extra one just for good measure. Why not? So the original ones, they're at about 500 cycles or more now, like nearly 600, I think. The original ones have been. So they got worked real hard at the beginning. I was working things out and how everything goes, right? And then we've slowly added on to that over the time. You know, there's a few videos in that I've seen where they're sort of poo-pooing the Pylontechs because of issues. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what electronics you buy. As long as there's, you know, there's always going to be returns, there's always going to be duds. You can buy the most expensive item, the most expensive TV, whatever it is, and it can be DOA, it can die after a week. And that's just electronics. Sometimes a component in it, obviously, you know, too much impurities, whatever it might be, it will fail. It happens, right? So that's fine. But I've purchased now obviously 4 different times, and these are all different serials. So, you know, we've started out the original ones, and I've got and they're actually all different. So they're all the different models through COVID, through post-COVID, pre-COVID. So the components and other things are different in them, but everything works. And it has been working. So I've got a nice spread of the Pylontechs over the years. Because I bought them when I bought my first batch, the first 5, about 10 months before we moved out here. So they were all ready to go and whatnot when I got it. So, and then I've obviously been buying slowly when I can afford it, and when it made sense. Right. So these have always just a few things about the system. So we've always had it charged via the integrations on the MPP solar inverters. They've never been charged, you know, just with your setting the settings on a solar charge controller and charging them. It's always been charged to the integration, which obviously gives me a bit of confidence, because the inverters will stop charging and start charging, and they communicate with the BMS and actually make sure that everything's fine. These things have been great. Like when it comes to adding additional ones, I know there's steps in there where you connect them, and it's got to be at least 1 light difference, and you let them sit for 15 minutes and level out. Nah, don't bother with any of that, right? I just make sure that the sun's out, it's charging, I'm getting 10 kilowatts or whatever it is. The battery bank is being charged pretty heavily. That's when I do the changeover, because I don't want an outage to stuff, because I've got computers and freeze dryers and all sorts of stuff running, and I don't want to turn my power off. So I just, since the MPP solars can run batteryless, and as long as there's enough power to cover or everything that's running, it will just work. So I then switch the batteries off, then add these ones in, add the new ones in, slide them in, connect them up, and then switch it back, and then basically flick the switch on the breaker back on the batteries, and then they start charging. So by the end of the day, all the batteries are 100%, but they're not discharging. So I don't put them in and they just instantly start discharging. I put them in when they're charging, and there's almost no difference, and it's great. Like, these things really work. Now I've got 11 here in parallel, right? So you might think, oh yeah, you know, again, there's some videos and other things where the first one and the bottom one, because I've got positive negative going from the top one and the bottom one, which gives me about 240 amps worth of output, more than 10 kilowatts, more than what we'd normally draw anyway. But usually the first one, or the first ones, will charge first and will empty first, and you know, I think, but whatever the management system in here, it actually does a really good job at balancing it. So it makes sure that they're all balanced. And you actually see I put the new one, the 11th one, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago I put that in, and it was very far off. Like, it was at about 40%, the rest of the batteries were at 80%. So whack that in, and obviously as part of the thing, I've always made sure that the first one, or the new one, becomes the master when I put them in. And you notice straight away when the thing's charging is that, you know, like 2 kilowatts or something was going into the top one, and almost nothing was going into the rest of them. So it really balances it out, and they actually discharge pretty evenly too. And you'll see it when they're all going, is you'll see them turn off and blink off and on, and you see which ones are charging and which ones aren't, and it's pretty cool. You can sit there and watch a bit like a Christmas tree cycling through the LEDs, but it does actually an amazing job at what it needs to do, right? So this is my lovely battery bank now. I've got room for 2 more, I reckon, before it hits my switch up there, but they're the Pylontechs, all 11 of them. And just for reference, I do have a DIY makeshift battery. It's doing a lot better now, but it's, you know, the amount of hassle, amount of time and other things that I've had to spend on that, plus, you know, how I store it and other things, it really is. It is cheaper, yes, but it really isn't worth it. It's nice though, like it just gives me a little bit of a buffer if I ever need it. Nothing special here, just thought I would celebrate my 17 months off grid with my Pylontechs. Haven't missed a beat, no errors, everything's been running great. As I said, expanded it 4 or 5 times now, and it's been fine, right? And obviously different hardware, I'll say hardware models, but they're different serials, so different makes, different times, different batches. And it's been really good. I've been pleasantly surprised with how good it is, and the bang for buck, right? And this is the reason why I got them, is there's still very little in Australia anyway that match the price for the amount of power that you have, right? So there's plenty that are cheaper, that will be like 5 kilowatts, and you're probably paying, you know, maybe $600 less for one of these. But the thing is, you read them and they're only good for 2,000 cycles and 50% discharge and all these other things, right? 90% discharge and 10,000 cycles on these things is a lot better, right? So it's just the bang for buck. As long as they obviously reach those, which I'm hoping they will, and they're on the right track at the moment, it should be good. So anyway, hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe out there, and see you, bye.